Hearts jumped across Boulder County today as smoke was seen rising from the foothills. Understandably. Fortunate, though, fire that started almost a year to the day after the Marshall Fire burned 1,000 homes. That fire tonight is not spreading quickly. It started along Sunshine Canyon Road after a house fire got into some dry brush. Boulder's emergency managers say the fire's burned about 16 acres, so this is not a large or a fast fire. Issue is it's just not very far outside city limits. People have been evacuated from the Pine Brook Hill area and a neighborhood that's west of Foothills Community Park. The East Boulder Community Center on Sioux Drive is open as an evacuation site. People are welcome to take their pets with them there or to the Boulder Valley Humane Society, and the Boulder Fairgrounds is open for any large animals that need to be evacuated. The city has lifted a pre-evacuation order for West Boulder. This is really encouraging news. This is for the area between Linden and University Avenues. 9th was the north-south, the east cutoff there. People in that neighborhood were packing up in case the fire moved their way. Our Mark Salinger is there in a neighborhood full of understandably nervous folks. Mark?
Yeah, Kyle, you can still see how brutally windy it is today. And on a day like today where this wind mixes with cold, dry weather and you see smoke in the air with Christmas lights on houses, your mind immediately goes to the Marshall Fire and what that did to Boulder County. Now, people here tell me that they're even more alert and prepared since the Marshall Fire burned nearly 1 year ago. Now, earlier this afternoon, we met one woman whose house was just outside the pre-evacuation zone earlier this afternoon. That didn't stop her from packing up some clothes and food for pets as she waited for more emergency notifications to come in. She said after the Marshall Fire, she knows that even being several miles from the flames can still put her at risk in a matter of minutes.
Yes, scary. But it's happened before, and so we just get ready. And the first time, I thought, oh, my house is so far from, half a mile from the grasslands, so it won't matter. Now I know better, right?
Now, when we walked into her house, Janice had her computer open to the Boulder Emergency Management website as she kept refreshing the map of evacuations. She told me that she kept checking her phone for those emergency alerts to see if she was getting a text message or a phone call. Kyle, it shows just how important those alerts are to work correctly on a day like this when there's so much happening and so much wind that things can change so quickly.
But you just hope, Mark, that people are absolutely in tune, understand the seriousness, know the alerts that are out there. I was on the Boulder new alert page today that we just got up and running, I guess, like a month or two ago. So hopefully people have all of those tools at their disposal.
And it's a day like this when you can see just how windy it is, where you can say, hey, I'm still several miles away from the fire. I'm not even in the evacuation zone, like Janice said right there, and still just how quickly that can change, just like we saw during the Marshall Fire.
Glad that pre-evac was lifted. That is really good news. Mark, thank you. The House committee investigating the January 6th insurrection is suggesting that former CU visiting scholar John Eastman should become a visiting scholar at a federal prison. The committee is recommending that the Justice Department bring criminal charges against Eastman and former President Donald Trump and others.
The committee believes that more than sufficient evidence exists for a criminal referral of former President Trump for assisting or aiding and comforting those at the Capitol who engaged in a violent attack on the United States.
The 7 Democrats and 2 Republicans on the committee unanimously voted in favor of recommending criminal charges. The decision is largely symbolic because the DOJ makes its own charging and investigative decisions. Eastman's role in the insurrection was writing the blueprint for former President Trump's team on how they could throw out the election results and hold on to power. Then Vice President Mike Pence refused to go along with Eastman's plan. Committee recommended 2 criminal counts against Eastman: impeding a proceeding of the U.S. government and conspiring to defraud the United States. Eastman called the committee's decision partisan and said they should instead be focused on Capitol security and election reform. The head of Colorado's Republican Party is stepping down after blowout losses last month. A year ago, Christy Burton Brown came to the Colorado GOP from the far-right group FEC United, which has an affiliated militia. But then election rigging conspiracy theorists within the party felt that Burton Brown wasn't actually a true believer, one of them. Recently, we showed you a rally where they called for her and other party leaders and consultants to be replaced.
We have a Republican Party that is full of whores. They have not held to the Republican platform, which is conservative. They've not held to the U.S. Constitution. And then you wonder why these asswipes can't win a race.
So that's what's waiting for the incoming chairwoman or chairman. This group rallied in a Boot Barn parking lot in Greenwood Village, as close as they could legally get to the GOP headquarters. Britton Brown announced today that she will not be seeking a second two-year term. She will serve out the remainder of her term. She's the third consecutive state GOP leader to cycle out after 2 years. And this has happened at a time when the Republican Party in Colorado has fallen to its most powerless point since before World War II. Republican Party leaders will select her replacement in March. The names in the running to lead the Colorado Republican Party suggest that it might just lurch from fairly inconsequential to practically invisible. This is a state where voters have decisively rejected conspiracy theories about election rigging and the January 6th insurrection. Yet 5 potential candidates to lead the Colorado Republican Party all have a history of losing elections and pushing those conspiracy theories.
Indicted election denier and Mesa County Clerk Tina Peters may run for state party chair. She just lost the GOP primary for Secretary of State.
If the people want me, that's great. I will stand up and serve.
Peters' ally Casper Stockham is already in the race. He's lost 3 bids for Congress and blamed Antifa for the January 6th insurrection. Greg Lopez just lost the GOP primary for governor. During that race, he said he would pardon Peters if she was convicted of tampering with election equipment. And Lopez said he wanted to do away with one person, one vote, proposing a system by which Republicans, with far fewer votes, would win elections quite easily in Colorado.
The 2020 election, it was rigged. Absolutely rigged.
Eric Odlin of Jefferson County lost his race for Congress after saying the 2020 election was rigged. He's also been talked about as a potential candidate for state chair.
Dave Williams led the fight against radical Democrats and rhinos, exposed election fraud.
State Representative Dave Williams of El Paso County claimed without evidence that more than 5,000 dead people voted in Colorado. He lost a GOP primary for Congress after a judge ruled he could not appear on the ballot as Let's Go Brandon. Williams told me he'll decide whether to run for party chair early next year. Whether Republicans will embrace reality remains to be seen.
Colorado is not a blue state. It's been cheated for so long.
Weather map's going to be blue, though. We got an Arctic front moving in this week. There are going to be parts of the state, including the city, that could see temperatures get well below zero. So what we have now is Denver's preparing to open emergency warming centers. The city's shelter capacity was already near full. Then we got a wave of a bunch of migrants in town up from the southern border. So this month, Denver has been scrambling to find shelter space for nearly 1,000 migrants. About 500 of them are currently either in the city-operated shelters at rec centers or in partner shelters. So you got 3 rec centers that have been converted to housing for people. As city leaders have been calling on other organizations to provide any shelter help that they can. Mayor Hancock said that finances are at a breaking point at this point. It's also a space issue now that the city wants to open warming centers, places where people can come in out of the cold. Typically, those are in rec centers. The city is promising that there will be others in addition to the Denver Coliseum, which will be open 24 hours a day starting Wednesday. They said they'd have details on that tomorrow. Colorado's power grid faces its biggest threats in extreme conditions, like the extreme weather we're expecting this week. But as the state transitions toward more clean energy sources like solar and wind power, we could have issues with more seemingly benign weather issues. Researchers with the state's Public Utilities Commission say the state's power grid was historically threatened by extreme heat or extreme cold. The new report says that power sources like wind turbines and solar projects are going to have issues with just overcast skies and long periods without wind. Those are conditions most common during the winter. And researchers say that clean energy providers are going to need to change the way that they store energy so that they can keep up with demand during overcast weather. State regulators at the PUC started this study after the winter storm last year that cost utilities like Xcel about $500 million, costs that were passed on to the rest of us in natural gas prices. What an absolutely incredible thing that you did for kids in need in our community. In the last couple of days, you've raised almost $90,000 for a precious child. That nonprofit buys holiday gifts for more than 10,000 kids in need. And this year, they have a last-minute emergency list, another 4,000 kids who might go without a holiday gift. Kids referred to that nonprofit by schools and homeless shelters and other service providers. The nearly $90,000 you raised through your latest Word of Thanks campaign is going to go a long way to buying gifts for kids on that list. Do you know of a nonprofit in our community that could use our help? Email your ideas to next@9news.com.
RSV cases are dropping across Colorado, yet doctors are still busy fighting off 3 threats at once. The state wants to get more electric vehicles on the road, but not doing a California-style ban on gas-powered vehicles. And it's a big way to celebrate Hanukkah.
scouring at 24.5 feet tall.
Students in Denver built it themselves. Lego brick by Lego brick. That's next.
You share your holiday joy with us. We share it with Colorado. Hope the man in the dreidel is okay. Colorado is following California's lead to a point in the hopes of getting nearly 1 million electric vehicles on the road by 2030. The Polis administration wants to require auto manufacturers to sell 80% electric vehicles in Colorado by 2032. Right now, it's like 10%. The state's proposal is a modification of the California law, which straight up bans gas-powered vehicle sales by 2035. Colorado's not going with a ban. Colorado's trying to incentivize electric vehicle purchases to increase those sales. And it's not just cars either. Colorado wants to encourage sales of electric bikes and heavy-duty vehicles by increasing the state's charging infrastructure and offering financial assistance to low-income families.
Tonight's next question comes from a viewer named Ken. Wants to know more about financial incentives for electric vehicle buyers. Ken was wondering whether electric vehicle drivers contribute to the state's road tax, which is normally paid for through our gas prices.
Ken, we get that question a bunch. And Colorado's electric vehicle drivers currently pay a fee, about $50, when they register their vehicle, and that is to directly offset the taxes that they save by not buying gas and paying through that mechanism. Some of that goes into road funding, some of it goes into charging infrastructure for electric vehicles. Transportation bill passed in 2021 will allow that fee to fluctuate based on inflation, just like the gas fee will. Hospitals across Colorado are still overwhelmed by what they're calling the triple-demic of RSV, COVID, and the flu at the same time. The Biden administration is actually going to kick in some federal taxpayer funds trying to ease some of the strain on hospitals. Children's Hospital and the state health department said a few weeks ago that they think we're past the peak of RSV, and the latest numbers indicate that RSV cases are dropping. But flu cases and COVID cases are still relatively high. Today, Health and Human Services Secretary Javier Becerra visited Children's for a conversation on respiratory illnesses.
We are going to try to be there as much as we can at the federal level. We know that most of this work is done at the very local level and with the help of states, but we want all of our state and local partners to know that we're there and we're going to try to help you stay ahead of this. And so if you tell us you need something, we're just going to ask how high you need us to jump.
There's no vaccine for RSV, which particularly hits kids hard. Becerra stressed what you hear from doctors, the idea to get vaccinated against what you can, so COVID and the flu, to slow those cases and the overall strain on the system. We should mention both those vaccines take days to weeks to take effect, so even if you go and get that vaccine right before holiday gatherings, doctors suggest, especially if you or somebody around you is vulnerable, you do the basic stuff like mask wearing and social distancing.
And mild weather continues as we wait on dangerously cold weather to move in Wednesday, along with a little bit of snow through early Thursday. But right now, we can see these temperatures mostly in the upper 40s to even lower 50s across the Front Range and Eastern Plains. We made a high of 47 degrees today in Denver. The high country anywhere from single digits to 20s and 30s, and then those lower 30s out west as well. Now, of course, we're starting to cool down a bit. We're at 31 degrees, but it feels closer to 22 out there, and that's going to be with those winds coming in from the north-northeast at around 10 miles per hour. So not a whole lot to look at on our HD Doppler radar. We're right under a nice ridge of high pressure, which is going to continue to give us clear skies as we go throughout the evening, and then a sunny day tomorrow. But let's go ahead and take a look at the bigger story. This is going to be our wind chill watch taking over the majority of the state of Colorado. This is going to be early or late Wednesday through early Friday. The only place that's not in this is going to be the southwestern corner of the state, but all of us, including here in Denver, we will be under this wind chill watch, and that's because anytime between late Wednesday through early Friday, we could see wind chill values dropping to 50 below zero, which translates to frostbite on the skin, any exposed skin within 5 minutes. So this is why we use the term dangerously cold weather. That'll move in midday Wednesday all the way through early Friday. In the meantime, though, we're going to be pretty mild. 17 degrees is our low, partly cloudy skies, calm winds throughout the evening. And we have a couple of mild days still in store before this dangerously cold weather moves in. So we'll be in the mid to upper 40s both Tuesday Tuesday and Wednesday, we'll see those early highs in the upper 40s Wednesday before that front pushes in that Arctic air and even some snowfall late Wednesday into early Thursday. The snowfall not going to be too much. What we really will keep an eye out for is going to be the temperatures and that wind chill, which is the temperature plus the wind, what it feels like on the skin. We won't make it into the positives at all on Thursday. We stay sub-zero all day long. We finally start to thaw out as we make our way closer to Christmas. Those temperatures getting warmer just in time for Santa.
They built it as an enormous holiday tribute, and they'll destroy it today. That's next.
Happy Hanukkah. I'm sorry that the hope of this holiday is tempered by rising hate this year. There are hundreds of kids in Denver that wanted to do something big, special for Hanukkah. They decided that they could break a world record if they set out to do it. Our photojournalist Byron Reed caught up with them.
This is the universe's largest Lego menorah. It's towering at 24.5 feet tall and was made by over 425 individual Jewish teens and kids. Hi, my name is Yonatan Newson. I'm the youth director for Denver NCSY, as well as H of the Rockies here in Denver, Colorado. So the reason why we created the world's largest Lego menorah was to bring as many kids together as possible, because it's all about unity. The menorah shines the light during Hanukkah. It's during the winter. It's the darkest time of the entire year. And if you look around, we have a lot of dark times. You know, Hanukkah happened over 2,000 years ago, where people tried to make us forget who we were as the Jewish people. And that's not an ancient history story. That's what we see today as well. There you go. Now we're talking. We're going to be disassembling this Lego menorah, packing those Legos into gift boxes, and then be donated to children in foster care, both locally as well as foster care in Israel as well. This is my father. This is my father, Rabbi Papa Bear. It's not about breaking the world record. It's not about being in Guinness World Records either. It's about coming together and helping people. That's what I love to see, and that's what really warms my heart.
It's an honor to be here and help them.
Be that light, shine that through your smile, through every custom that we have, and be proud and be joyous and celebrate together as the Jewish family. It's nothing that we should be ashamed of. It's something that we should be able to show, to celebrate, and be proud of at the same time.
A cool idea. That menorah was made with at least 24,000 Legos. You can forgive them for not counting each one. It was built over 20 days. Last year, they built the world's largest dreidel. We are back with an ode to joy, your holiday joy, and your feedback, which is not always joyful. Next. That old school Santa with the, what was it, like a scepter and a crown? A little bit of your holiday joy. We've been asking you to share some of your favorite holiday photos and videos with us, old or new, and then we can share them with the rest of Colorado. Some of the photos that we've received are almost 75 years old. It's really cool that families have held on to those holiday memories. Keep emailing them to us, next@9news.com. We're going to try to put together a new one of those every day to feature them all this week. Eric writes in to say, society aspires for diversity. Different thoughts and experiences make us stronger. Don't be so proud of Colorado's lack of political diversity. Eric, if you've watched the show, you've heard me say here before, I think Colorado would be much better off if we had two serious, competent, competitive political parties. Great ideas from both sides, smart, thoughtful people duking it out in the arena of ideas. Yeah, we don't have that right now. We'd be better off with it. We'll see you next time.